Hi guys, we've been on the road since about 10:30 and it's now 6:15 in the evening and we've still got a couple of hours to go. Where are we going, I hear you say? Well, if I told you we'd just passed Inverness and we're heading north. I need to put my teeth in. And this is the Crometry Forth, just out to the right here. This is a little adventure we're going on just for 24 hours. My brother lives up at the north of Scotland, in Thurso. But guys, I know it's dark and I know you can't see anything, but we just wanted to check in and give you a little update on what we're up to and where we're going. And we're going to be making a video up here over the next few days and looking forward to sharing with you on Sunday. So this video is going to be a lot of fun. Just outside the centre of Thurso, sitting quietly above the river, are the remains of something that has watched over this town for centuries, the old Kirk of Thurso. At first glance, it might look just like any other ruined church in the Highlands, but this place holds nearly 900 years of history. The kirk dates back to around the 12th century, making it one of the oldest surviving religious sites in Caithness. It was built during a time when the far north of Scotland was still heavily influenced by the Norse Earls of Orkney, and the town of Thurso itself was an important Norse settlement. In fact, the name Thurso comes from the Old Norse Thorsa, meaning Thor's River. So far, from the very beginning, this church stood at the meeting point of Norse and Scottish history. For centuries, this kirk served the local community. Generations were baptised here, they were married here, and they were buried here. And if you walk through the surrounding graveyard today, you're literally walking through hundreds of years of local stories. Some of the gravestones date back several centuries, marking the lives of fishermen, farmers, merchants, landowners and families who built the town we see here today. The building itself has been altered many times over the centuries. By the 19th century, however, the congregation had outgrown the building. A new parish church was built nearby, and the old kirk gradually fell into ruin. But even in its ruined state, the structure still tells a lot about medieval church design in the north of Scotland. From the thick stone walls to the simple rectangular layout of the Highland kirks. Standing here today, it's hard not to imagine what this place must have been like centuries ago. A busy Sunday morning, the sound of the congregation gathering, boats arriving in the harbour, and the church bell carrying across the river and towards the Pentland Firth. For the people of Thurso, this wasn't just a building. It was the centre of community life for hundreds of years. Today, the old kirk stands as a quiet reminder of the town's long history, a place where Vikings influenced medieval Scotland, and generations of Caithness families all left their mark. And while the roof may be gone, the story of this kirk and the people connected to it is still very much part of Thurso. In front of us, there's a unique and quite interesting selection of flat stones that have been put along fence lines. I must admit, at first glance, I wondered what was going on. But if you actually think about it, it makes perfect sense. Up in the north of Scotland, there's very little ability for trees to grow. Certainly not forests or large landscapes to allow animals to get shelter. Back in southern Scotland or even mainland Scotland further down, animals can shelter in forests and in the inclement weather stay warm. But up here it's very exposed. So the farmers have built up these defensive walls quickly from large slate-like type stones where the animals can lie down behind and get out of the prevailing winds. It's fascinating and it looks really very special, and it's something unique to this area. Most people think John o' Groats is the most northerly point of mainland Britain. I must admit, before I knew quite recently, I felt the same. But it's not. About 18 kilometres west of here lies a dramatic headland of cliffs, seabirds and wild Atlantic winds. And this is Dunnet Head. It's actually the true most northerly point of mainland Britain. However, locals class it as Dunnet Head. Dunnet Head sits on the northern coast of Caithness, overlooking the powerful tidal waters of the Pentland Firth. On a clear day, you can see the Isles of Orkney rising in the horizon. It's a spectacular place, and it's also incredibly important for wildlife and history. Much of the headland forms the Dunnet Head Nature Reserve, one of the most important seabird sites in northern Scotland. The cliffs here are home to thousands of birds during the breeding season. If you visit in the spring or the summer, you're likely to see the Atlantic puffin, the northern fulmar, the black-legged kittiwake, and sometimes razorbills nesting along the cliff edges. The steep cliffs are strong sea winds, making it the perfect natural fortress for seabirds, with the natural lift coming right up the cliff faces. And the views over the Pentland Firth are incredible. At the very top of the headland stands Dunnet Head Lighthouse. The lighthouse was built in 1831 by the famous Scottish engineer Robert Stephenson, the grandfather of Robert Louis Stevenson, the one that we all know that built the steam train. Stevenson designed dozens of lighthouses around Scotland's dangerous coastlines, including the legendary Bell Rock Lighthouse. His work helped make these waters far safer for ships to navigate the powerful currents of the Pentland Firth. For centuries, these waters have been some of the most dangerous in Britain. The tides here can reach speeds of up to 16 kilometres per hour, creating whirlpools and powerful tidal races. That's why the lighthouse has played such an important role guiding ships safely past the northern coasts of Scotland. During the Second World War, this remote headland became an important military observation point. The old huts and concrete structures you can still see today were once used by the coastal defence units. From here, soldiers watched the sea for enemy ships or submarines that may be attempting to enter the Pentland Firth. Radar stations and observation posts were built across the headland as part of Britain's coastal defence network. This signpost marks one of the most famous places in the UK, certainly one of the most photographed places in the UK. Welcome to John o' Groats, often called the northernmost point of mainland Britain. But interestingly, the title actually belongs to nearby Dunnet Head, or Dunnet Head, just a few miles along the coast. So why is John o' Groats the place everyone comes to? Well, part of the reason is history. The name John o' Groats is believed to come from Jan de Groot, a Dutchman, who operated a ferry here in the late 1400s. His name gradually changed in pronunciation over time from Jan de Groot to John o' Groats. These dramatic ruins overlooking the River Thurso are all that remains of what was once one of the grandest homes in northern Scotland. This is Thurso Castle, the historic seat of the powerful Sinclair family, Earls of Caithness. But while the ruins look centuries old, the story of this site actually stretches back nearly 900 years. Records show that there are already a castle here by the 12th century. At the time, Caithness was still heavily influenced by the Norse Earls of Orkney, who ruled much of the far north. The early castle was probably a simple earthwork fortress, strategically placed to overlook the river crossing and the growing settlement of Thurso. None of that original structure survives today, but it marks the beginning of the site's long history. The first substantial stone building here appeared much later. In fact, in 1665, George Sinclair, the 6th Earl of Caithness, built a tower house on the site. Part of the building became known as the Arch, and some sections of it survive into later versions of the castle. For the Sinclair family, Thurso Castle became their main residence in Caithness, but over time the castle was expanded and remodelled as tastes changed, but the most dramatic transformation happened in the late 19th century. Between 1872 and 1878, a much larger, grander mansion was built on the site in the Scottish baronial style, a romantic architectural style inspired by medieval castles, but very much with the Victorian influences. Some people may even think a little garish. This new Thurso Castle was designed to look impressive rather than defensive, with towers, turrets, and views across the surrounding landscape. For decades, it remained the home of the Earls of Caithness. But like many large country houses across Britain, its future changed after the Second World War. Large estates became increasingly difficult to maintain. Then disaster struck. In 1951, a major fire badly damaged the castle. Today, the ruins stand quietly above the River Thurso, overlooking the town that grew up around them. A dynamic reminder that this peaceful stretch of river was once the centre of power for one of the most important families in northern Scotland. Thanks for watching today's video. We really do hope you enjoyed our nice trip up north. If you liked it, please do the usual, the like, and also, if you really liked it, subscribe. It makes a massive difference to us, and I promise you, it doesn't cost you anything. Please like and subscribe.